so excited to welcome you and to welcome Chris Mueller today. We are doing this as a bit of an interview format, and so I am here, first of all, to say welcome. If you'd like lemonade or water, there's some in the back. If you need a restroom, you can go out in the hallway and take a left, and then you'll see a nice long hallway. So you want to go kind of take a right into that long hallway. You'll see the restrooms right there. They're not far away. So if you are walking a really long time, you should turn around and come back because you probably passed them. On the other hand, it is a circle, so you could keep walking until you get back to the beginning. So I'm also here to introduce to you the person who's going to be interviewing Chris, and that is Mark Walther. He is a member here at Prince of Peace. He's been a member with his wife and his family he and his wife for 33 years. And so they have 3 sons together. They all also are baptized, attended preschool here at Prince of Peace, were confirmed here at Prince of Peace, and they've enjoyed doing a variety of things here in the congregation. And so he's been around long enough to have known Chris when he was very, very young. And so he gets to ask the kinds of questions that I don't get to ask, I imagine. Mark and his wife are both retired now. Mark was an elementary school principal in Glenview for 35 years. And he and his wife attended countless soccer games of their own with their 3 sons. And interestingly, during their high school days, Mark and Judy's twin sons, Colin and Logan, used to eat lunch together with Chris in the school cafeteria. So a lot of connections between these families and this church, and it's just wonderful to have you here and to have Chris here. So without further ado, I'll invite Mark forward to say a little bit about Chris.
Thanks so much, Pastor Aaron, and welcome. What a treat it is to have all of you here, and most of all, what a treat it is to have a special guest who came back home tonight. Okay,
Eat it. There you go.
Who came back home tonight. So let me tell you just a little bit about Chris. So Chris attended preschool here, and in fact, one of his preschool teachers is here in the audience this evening.
This is your knowledge.
Is that awesome or what? And so Chris, with his mom and dad and brothers, were members here at Prince of Peace and celebrated many wonderful years of fellowship and service here. And so while Chris was doing that, he was just beginning to test the soccer waters, and he played with an organization in Palatine called the Sockers for about 9 years, I believe. And that catapulted him into a lifelong dream of playing professional soccer. So he then attended the University of Wisconsin. And Chris will tell us more about that.
This is a camera.
Chris will tell us more about that. But just to share some of his accolades, in his junior and senior season at the University of Wisconsin, he was the first 2-time All-American there. Okay? First 2-time All-American at the University of Wisconsin. And University of Wisconsin rose to prominence while Chris was there, and they won the Big Ten title while he was there. So he was also named first team All-Big Ten during his junior and senior season. And I think he'll tell you that represented a turning point in his life, those 2 years there. But he'll tell us more about that. And that then made it possible for him to be the 6th overall pick in the MLS draft, drafted by Orlando City, where he played for 4 years. I think leader in appearances, leader in goals, assists. I don't know the specifics, other than rather noteworthy. Okay? Maybe you had a chance to watch him on television. And so Chris also played a couple of games with the U.S. men's national team. and we'll have him tell you more about that. In fact, being named player of the game in one of those games, I guess, against El Salvador, perhaps. And then Chris took a short journey to Scotland, where he played in the Scottish Premier League with Hibernian FC for a short period of time. And then you couldn't help but notice that last spring, the media was reporting that Chris Mueller was coming back to Chicago, and that the Chicago Fire had acquired his rights in a partnership with Orlando City to come back and begin playing for the Fire last May. And for those of you who had a chance to watch any of the Fire games last year, there's a new sense of energy on the field, mainly because of the young man standing in the back of the room, okay? And he'll be the first to tell you that there's a lot of talented players on that team, and that's what he's all about, is, you know, helping his teammates to be the best that they can be. And we look forward to the Fire becoming really successful in the coming season. Their first game is on March 4th, by the way, okay? So we hope as many people as possible can come on and see Chris and the rest of the Fire play. So he's also written a book. So a few weeks ago when we were talking about Chris here with the congregation, we said, well, I don't know about how many of you at the age of 25 wrote your first book, but he did. And it's called Bet on Yourself. And you'll notice that it's on one of the pictures scrolled behind me. And if you haven't had a chance to purchase a book, you can. They're available in the back of the room. You can do that before you leave tonight, or you can put your phone on the QR code and go online and purchase that. The books in the back have been autographed by Chris. And I know he'll be around afterwards if you would like to talk with him some more. Okay? So it's a really inspiring book. I think all of you will enjoy it very, very much. So if you could, let's give a nice warm welcome to Chris Mueller. Chris has been busy for the last several weeks. He has been in Cancun.
Yeah. Not as fun as it sounds, actually. There's a lot of running and suffering. But.
And in Tucson for preseason training. And now he's back in town because opening night is not too far away. And I'm sure he'd rather be back in Cancun or in Tucson.
No, I'm enjoying the cold, actually. It's been nice to be back.
So welcome back. Really, what a treat for all of us. And to see you here, most of all, with your family. And so I think that's where we want to start a little bit. Can you just tell us a little bit about your family? How would that be?
Yeah, my family has been my number one support system through all of this. It's obviously been a long journey, ups and downs every day, like everyone here I'm sure experiences. But my family has certainly been my rock. I have my grandparents here, my wife, my stepdad, my mother. So yeah, they've been with me through it all, and they've traveled all over the world. They used to go and sit out in my games in the rain and in the cold, and yeah, it's a treat to always have them by my side. It definitely gives me a lot of motivation and drive just to continue to do what I do every day.
And Chris's wife, Alyssa, is here. She's the one responsible for the cover of the book.
Yeah. She's the behind the scenes.
It's kind of fun to read in the inside cover, and it says, cover by Alyssa. So very nice, very nice. And Leanne, thank you. It's very special to have you back here too. Thank you. It's always nice to have family here. So Chris, if we can we dig into your formative years just a little bit? Maybe talk a little bit about, maybe your elementary years, your junior high years, maybe through high school. And maybe some people that you crossed paths with during that time that were instrumental in your development, or maybe a couple of experiences during your formative years that stand out for you as making a difference in your life.
That's a tough question, but no, I think that as I continue to grow up, I think I've crossed paths with paths with a lot of people who have touched my lives in special ways. The first being my wife, the girl I met when I was 16, was obviously an instrumental piece because I knew that she would be with me the whole way through the journey of everything that we were going to face in life. And I think that in choosing your partner is one of the most important things, one of the most important decisions, probably the most important decision you'll ever make in your life. So I know I won there, so that was obviously a big step in the right direction. But even growing up, like I had played multiple sports. Soccer was definitely my favorite sport. Having played, I was in wrestling, baseball, basketball. I had tried a bunch of things. My dad kind of threw me in and told me that I had to try everything. But when it came time to choose one, soccer was ultimately, I think, the one that I was the best at. So I had most fun playing that one. I like to wrestle too, but it just didn't end up working out that way. So stuck with soccer and just met so many good people. I had so many good coaches that I could attribute to a lot of my success to for just constantly sticking with me, giving me the right lessons. You know, and I'll share one with you guys that was so touching to me when I was a young player. I had a really bad temper, like terrible. I would lose games and I would throw fits, I would cry. My preschool teacher was like, even when my mom used to drop me off here for preschool, I would cry every single day. She told me just now, she remembered me because I cried every single day. So I didn't have I was very quick to get angry. I was upset when I would lose. And I had a coach who told me that I just needed to treat playing soccer, whenever I missed a shot or a goal or we lost a game, I always was the worst loser. And he always told me just to treat it like an ice cream cone, whereas if I was to drop my ice cream on the ground, what would I do? That I would just pick it up and I would throw it away and I would go get another. Another one's gonna come, Chris. Just go get another ice cream cone. Don't focus on that one, go get another one. And as a young kid, that was so instrumental for me, and it really helped me just continue to focus on the next thing. So yeah, like I said, there's been so many people I could stand up here and go through so many that have been instrumental in my journey, but yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I know your preschool teacher is very proud of you.
Yeah.
So, you know, needless to say, Prince of Peace is thrilled that you're back. And, you know, in your book, on several occasions, you talk about your faith and how that inspires you and what a difference that has made for you in the development of your career. So I'm wondering if you could touch a little bit on what your faith means to you, you know, and how that has had an impact upon you.
Yeah, I think I've learned so much in the past couple of years, and more specifically in the past couple of months, about my faith and how I choose to follow it. And like you guys all know, I obviously went here as a kid. My mom had me in the Sunday school here. My stepdad actually did a really good job of introducing Jesus to me when I was younger, which was also a really important part of my life because it's given me a lot of foundation and strength and whatever I needed in tough times, because it's not easy every day, as all of you guys know. Life could be challenging at certain times, but even in the past couple of years, having gone to Scotland and coming back, and as much as, you know, just to give you guys some insight, as much as it's felt like being great, being home, in a lot of aspects of my mind, I had gone for such a short period of time where, you know, maybe I feel like I failed in some sense, and I'm coming home with, you know, bits of sadness and disappointment, and like I said, feeling like I failed in a number of ways. But ultimately, I know when I come back and I'm able to find like myself in God and who God sees me as, and that I don't always have to be perfect. And in every game, when you make a mistake, you know, it's really crucial to have it, just in terms of getting like love for yourself and mental health, to just know that you always have that foundation in the back of your mind is very assuring, because I feel like in my career, it's been very difficult to find validation in the right things, where if you put them in material things, I haven't found that those things last. As you chase success, as you chase things that you think are going to bring you happiness, ultimately, it's the little things at the end of the day that bring happiness, and eternal foundation of having my faith that's continued to push me and is providing me that even now. So,
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And I think on the surface, a lot of people go, oh, Chris Mueller, like the glamour of being a professional athlete, and always thinking of the bright spots. And we'll get into this later, but because I know people will be anxious to hear a little bit about not only how you handle the accolades and the glory, but also those moments that aren't so good. And you talk a lot about that in your book, and those principles that are important to you that help you through that. But before we get there, let's kind of move into your college days at the University of Wisconsin. And so I'm going to make a leap here as I began to learn more about you through my two sons, who used to have lunch with you in the cafeteria and who watch you religiously. He's a beast, Dad. It seems like that represented a turning point for you, kind of what happened at University of Wisconsin. So I wonder if you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it wasn't the brightest start to my college journey. My first 2 years were definitely more of a challenge than the last two, but I had gone into school. I wasn't necessarily the highest recruited guy on the roster. I didn't play at all. I played a little bit my freshman year. I came off the bench. Started a little bit more games in my sophomore year, but really was just butting heads with my coach. I was unhappy because I wasn't playing a lot. I remember crying at school too. I'm a big crier, I know you guys know. I remember crying at school after my sophomore year of college, outside of the locker room, and calling my mom and telling her that I wanted to transfer, that the coach, he didn't like me, and I was upset about a numerous number of things from the school, but ultimately she told me just to stick it out, and it obviously ended up turning around after I had understood, I think, from a more mature aspect, what my coach was trying to do in those times. I had gone into school as a 17-year-old, so I think I was a bit immature as well. I was learning how to take constructive criticism, and just growing up a little bit, learning how to do things on my own, how to time manage. I think all those things kind of weighed into the difficulty that was kind of compounding up inside of me. And, I kind of hit this rock bottom point where being a professional soccer player had always been my dream. And I knew that after my first 2 seasons at the University of Wisconsin, that the number of goals and the amount of games that I was playing wasn't going to ultimately be good enough to help me get to the next level. So I kind of came into this moment in time where I had just really looked myself in the mirror and said, okay, well, if I'm going to go out at the end and not be a professional, I at least want to look back and say that I've put everything into trying my best. I didn't want to have any regrets. So a trainer at my school, actually, one of my physios, had given me a book because he kind of knew that I was a head case as well. And he said, just read this, man, get your mindset right a little bit. So it's actually what introduced me to reading, and I picked up this book. It was called Mind Gym, and I was a sophomore in college. During the summer, I was out in Des Moines, Iowa, playing PDL out there, and stuck in an apartment all day with guys, and you just didn't have anything else to do. So I used to take my moped to the Starbucks right up the road, and I just sat down religiously and I read this book, and it just really opened my eyes in the sense of how much more I could be doing for bettering my chances of becoming a professional, and how much more I could be giving into the process of trying to be the best soccer player that I could be. So yeah, after that summer, I had really just stopped going out, and I really eliminated all my distraction, just focused in on what I wanted to do, wrote down my goals, really started just, like I'm saying, to really dive into that process of trying to be the best that I could be, and started reading more and more, watching more film, just doing all the little extra bits, staying after training, coming in early, hitting tons of extra free kicks after, going in late at night by myself, staying in the gym, just doing literally everything that you could possibly think of. And like you said, it turned in that year. The team had gone from being one of the worst teams in the Big Ten to up into second place. We lost that year in the Big Ten championship, actually, which was really hard, but we had seen so much progress. And me, myself, I saw so much progress, and I remember at the end of the year, the accolades coming out and seeing that I was an All-American, and I was like, I can't believe this. And not to say that I didn't believe that I could do it, but to believe that you could do it and then actually do it was a different sort of experience. And I was like, wow, that stuff really works. The reading and all that, everything that I was doing in order to become the best that I could be was working. And I obviously just dove deeper into that after it worked my junior year, and it compounded again into an even more memorable senior year. So yeah, it was an up and down journey. It didn't start great, but at the end it was transformational and had a massive impact on obviously who I am today.
Yeah. Come on, man, put your hands together. First two-time All-American. It's amazing. And I'm sure that Wisconsin is incredibly grateful to you, and I have a feeling you're back there regularly helping them out in some way, just knowing who you are. You know, right? So, all right, so you have an incredible experience up in Madison, and then you are the number 6 overall pick in the draft. That's amazing. You know? Yeah, it's amazing. So, can you talk a little bit about that, Chris?
Yeah.
You know, all of a sudden you're graduating from college, and you know the pros are knocking on your door, and number 6. Here we go.
Yeah. No, it was a wild journey from the end of my senior season to entering into the draft, and then that possibility. I had gone down to the combine, and we were at the combine. I think it was in Orlando actually, which was great because I was right at home. I was in Orlando. No, I flew down there. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. So feels like forever ago, but it wasn't. But no, I was in the combine down there and doing tons of interviews with a ton of different teams. They kind of have this like, as all the draft like possibilities are down there, the guys who are in the combine, we all kind of stayed at the same resort where every other MLS team, everyone was staying here at this resort. So like all the teams, the GMs, the agents, it was just like a hot spot for soccer and the future of what was coming. So I had all these interviews with tons of different teams where I would go sit in rooms, and it's basically like a job interview. You'd sit there and, you know, Atlanta and Columbus and all the teams that were in the draft would just interview you, try and figure out if they want you to be a part of their organization. So I had done that for a number of days, and I remember my agent, I was really happy with him at the time because he was really honest in saying, look, I don't know when you're going to get drafted. I don't want to tell you when or where, because obviously there's tons of moving pieces when the draft comes around, right? Like teams could trade up. One team could say, oh, we're going to take you at number 2 or 3, and then they won't because something changes at number 1. So it was like really up in the air. It was really unpredictable. And ultimately, I kind of just sat back and said, okay, well, surely God has a plan for me, and we'll see where he wants me to go. And funny enough, Chicago actually had the number 5 pick. They passed at me. And then 6th came, and it was Orlando. So I was like, all right, great, I'll go to play some golf. You know?
That's good fire trivia.
But yeah, exactly. So it's all come back around. But yeah, obviously getting drafted. The draft was in Philly, and my family, again, everybody who's here was there as well. So we went out to dinner and celebrated, and it was like, wow. Obviously a ton of hard work finally coming into fruition, but I also knew that most of the hard work was actually lying ahead of me. So I was really excited to get down to Orlando and start that journey. But yeah, the draft was an amazing process as well, and I'm glad I was able to be a part of it.
And a totally different level of competition too. You know, I'm sure, you know, at the college level, at that point you're thinking, wow, I'm really playing with outstanding athletes, and you were. And then you get to the pro level and everybody's outstanding.
Yeah.
And so then trying to distance yourself from others, the journey continues.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
No doubt.
Yeah. So the U.S. men's national team, what an honor, again, to play for them. Can you talk a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, so I had gone 4 seasons in Orlando before I had gotten that call, but just kind of continually chipping bits away every year, getting a little bit better, working hard constantly, and you know, that was obviously a dream of mine since I was a little kid, was to play for the U.S. I'd never played for the U.S. youth teams. Like a lot of kids that I have known growing up, they go play for the U14, U15, U16 national teams, and they get to go play in these games against, you know, U17 of other countries, right? They travel all around, and it was something that I would always wanted to do, and I felt that I could have had the opportunity to do, but never got the call. So I just kept working, and after my best season in Orlando was 2020, actually right after COVID hit, we did the bubble, and I think a lot of people took that time to just relax and wait to see what the future kind of held. Obviously, there was a ton of uncertainty at the time, but I was in Orlando where the weather was good, and I just continued to train. I would go out and run 10 miles in the morning, and I was just doing stuff all day, just saying no, I wasn't gonna let all the work that I had done in the previous offseason go to waste. And that year ended up being my best year of my career. God granted, he obviously gave me the platform and the opportunity to do so, but after that season and getting that call, we lost the playoff game against New England at home, and I was obviously distraught after the game. Were you in the car with me? Yeah, you were. And we were leaving the game, and remember, Greg, the head coach of the U.S. team had called me right after we lost the playoff game with Orlando and said, hey, we want you to come to camp in December. And I was such a mixed emotion because I was so upset from losing the playoff game. But then I was obviously so happy after he had called, and it didn't hit me until I think midnight or 1 a.m. that night, where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm actually gonna go to the US. And I obviously had a great camp that year, that December. It was a 2-week camp in Miami, and I had the opportunity to make my debut against El Salvador. Obviously, again, dream come true. I got to score 2 goals, and it was something I'll never forget.
He should have scored 3. He gave it to another player.
We were going in on the goalie. It was like I could have just shot and scored, but the goalie came out and I passed it to the other guy, and he got to score the open goal. So
we wouldn't have expected anything less of you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. That's great. So then, after 4 years in Orlando, then you made this little jump to Scotland. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it wasn't a fast turn of events where I had never hit my intentions of trying to go to Europe when I was in Orlando. It was something that I'd wanted to do since I was a kid. I think when I was in high school, I didn't even really want to go to college. I always would have told my mom, I just want to go to Europe. I want to try and go to Europe, and that was always my aspiration. Obviously, it didn't work out that way, and I had to go to school, so I did it, and it ended up working out either way. But so while I was in Orlando, I'd never made it a hidden fact that I wanted to try. I just had the best year of my career. I was coming up to the end of my contract, and I had told them that I wanted to leave. Obviously, that doesn't go well in sports, so it was a tough. That 4th year in Orlando was hard, where I had come off my best season. I wasn't really playing that much, but I obviously still had some interest from European clubs because I had done so well the year before, and they knew the situation with my contract. We were kind of working it out, and that was also a wild journey, kind of like the draft, where I didn't really know where I was going to go. I was getting phone calls from my agent that clubs from all over Europe were interested in Denmark and Belgium and the Netherlands. And then this club from Scotland obviously came about, and the opportunity seemed to fit me right. And I had signed a pre-contract, which meant that I left in the 6 months after my contract was up. Orlando wouldn't let me leave, so I was kind of forced to do so. Nonetheless, I got there in that December, and that kind of kick-started my European journey out in Scotland.
Yeah. Well, Scotland's loss is our game. We're much happier to have you back in Chicago. And I mean this from my heart. When you would watch the games that you played last season, there was an incredible new sense of energy with that team. And I know that you are looking forward to helping that team continue to grow. It sounds like you guys had a wonderful preseason, I don't think you lost anything down there, So, but your coach he's pretty well stated about, I think, knowing that you guys are growing and you're looking forward to a better season. And we're looking forward to watching you. So, what's it like? What's it like to be back home and playing with the Fire? And can you talk just briefly about your emotion being, playing for the hometown team? That doesn't happen to everybody.
Yeah, no, definitely not. It's an opportunity that I cherish. It's been more fun than I think I would have thought that when I was a young player. I would have said, I want to go and experience some things and get away for a little while. I don't want to come back to Chicago. I really thought that when I was younger. And ultimately, the journey in Scotland had gone shorter than I had initially planned. I came back in a year, and when we got the phone call that Chicago was interested in bringing me home, we'd obviously been away from home for so long, and we were in a different stage of our lives, and we'd obviously missed our family. We'd been away from them. Even in Orlando, you're still a plane ride away. Not just like you can go over to your mom's for dinner or go and hang out with your grandpa on Sunday and watch football or whatever we do, that I was missing out so many opportunities on. And when we got that call, and we both had just sat there and thought about it for a little while, and obviously pulled the trigger on it, and everything was able to fall in place pretty rapidly, and I was back in a matter of a few weeks. And like you mentioned, I was here for the second half of last season. But to be home now, even just coming home back 6 months or 7 months ago, it was so refreshing just being back at home and having what was familiar, and seeing my family constantly was kind of gave me a different perspective away from the game, and that I think that I needed. I was away for so long, and so was Alyssa, and to get back and just have that support system, and to be back where I felt like I was really embraced, I think really attributed to my play last year, and it's definitely refreshed me in this offseason, and it's going to boost me through this season, I'm sure.
Yeah, fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about your book, okay? So bet on yourself, and I love, shut out the noise, focus, learn from the best, set your vision. You talk a lot about discipline, empowering habits, building your confidence, using fear, as a motivator, no excuses. You talk about a chapter about that, and then you talk about executing your plan, and a really nice chapter on a positive attitude and expressing your gratitude. And then one that I know we're all searching is talking about balance in our life. So you wrote that book. Tell us a little bit about, why? Why'd you do it? When did you do it? Just tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so that was a pretty long process, as I'm sure you guys can all imagine. It was just consisted of me consistently sitting down at the computer and just writing. I didn't really know what I was gonna do with it at the time. I just kind of had opened up a Word document, and every day I would just sit down and write about principles that I thought were important for success, and especially what had brought me success in my career. But what had driven the whole aspect in the beginning, the whole idea was coming from, like I said earlier, that someone gave me a book when I was in college that had really changed my perspective. I was like, wow, there's actually books out here that interest me, Usually books were from school and I was never super interested in them. But I just wanted to play soccer, but I got...
None of the rest of us can identify with that in college at all.
So I got hooked by this book, right? And, I had kind of gone down a spiral effect. I had just gone and started reading a ton of different things that were sort of on the same line of like the mental side of the sports, and then I started diving into sports science, and then I would read books on sports science that would teach me about nutrition, and then from nutrition I learned about mental health, and from mental health I would go to philosophy, and I would just read, and I still do. I'm an avid reader, I read every single day, but just an attribute to all of the resources that were out there that I had no idea about. I was like, wow, this has helped me so much. I'm going to try and start writing one because I found it so beneficial, and if I could even help one person, then that would be worth it. So I just sat down and sort of took it as a challenge to myself to just, anybody who writes will tell you writing's not easy. Some days you sit there and you feel like you don't have it. You're writing and I don't know if this is good, or, you're just trying to get the words out on paper. And once it came to the point, I had 200 or 300 pages in Microsoft where I was like, okay, maybe I could, go back and kind of organize this into a book. That would be obviously a dream come true. So I went through that whole process myself, and with my wife. She obviously edited the cover, and we edited it together and published it ourselves, So it was probably a 4-year journey, pretty long in itself, but it's been rewarding nonetheless. It's been great it's weird to say that I've written a book because but it was
quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, but like you said, with all the chapters, it's just based on what I thought had brought me success in my life, and it's also kind of a compound from all of the things that I had read up until that point that I felt like other people needed to know about that could maybe help their lives in terms of not only gaining success, but like you said, there's a chapter in there on gratitude and positive attitude, which just ultimately will help the amount of joy you experience in your life. And I don't think anything's done without discipline or dedication and a long-term vision. If you're young and you have aspirations, I think that these things are just necessary for any sort of achievement.
Yep. Yeah. Well, congratulations. I was inspired when I read it. So it's and all three boys are going to get a copy. So thank you. So what's the toughest part, Chris? What's the toughest part about being a professional athlete?
I would say just the ups and downs that comes with wins and losses, and just trying to maintain a consistent level through it, because it's really easy to get down when you're not having good performances, and when the team's not performing well, if you're losing games. People always, I feel like fans are always under the interpretation that the fans are really upset, but I think the players are even more upset. We want to win. We don't want to go out there and put bad performances and lose games, and being in the arena and getting criticized and all that stuff is challenging at times. But nonetheless, you have to continue to go and find ways to stay consistent through it, because I think just managing the trials, the obstacles. You're in training every day, competing for your job. I think that there's a lot of glamour to the outside with what it seems like, but when you take a look at the process of what is actually required to succeed at that level, and the amount of sacrifice and the time away from your family, and I won't have another off weekend until December. My dad will come into town, and people will come into town to come and see games, and it's great for them. They're there to enjoy, they're relaxing, but this is the time when I gotta work and I gotta play, I have to perform. Come Saturday night, Friday nights, you're never going out. Saturday nights, you're never going out with your friends. You don't have off days then. Sunday we train, every week we train on Sunday, and Monday's our off day. So what's going on Monday? Nothing. Just sit inside and relax and recover. But I think there's a lot of just things behind the scenes that many people don't understand, that go into just the difficulty and the amount of sacrifice that's required to play at the professional level.
So I know each day is different, but can you walk us through what a typical day now is like for you as you approach the season? And I'm sure that changes a little bit as the season ensues, but right now, and you were in training. So I know you're an early riser, and talk to us a little bit about what your daily regimen looks like.
Like the whole routine?
You got it. You've got some aspiring, soccer players in the room. So.
Yeah. So, I read a book a long time ago called The 5 a.m. Club, which really transformed me and made me see the mornings in a different limelight. So, I'm up at 5 a.m. every day, and the first thing I do is make coffee, because I think that's what we all run on at the end of the day. So, I have my morning coffee, but consistently I'll always make sure that I read, I write, I journal, and I meditate in the morning before I go to training. And actually something that's been extremely beneficial to me that I've started to implement more this year that I didn't always do in the past, spend more time in the Word. I think that, it's easy to go astray when things are going well, and it's easy to fall out of that time that I spend with God, and staying connected to the vine, because no fruit bears without it, has been something that's really kind of stood out to me, and I've made it a goal this year, now that I'm kind of on this path, just to share, is I'm not even looking to sort of say score this many goals, or for me, I just want to stay connected to the vine the whole time, and I think that God will sort out the rest, and that way I can just externally detach and just let kind of God do his thing. But so nonetheless, in the mornings I have been starting to implement that into my habits. As I said in the book, habits are everything. So creating a habit out of that's been great. But leave the house around 7:30 to get to training, and from there you have breakfast, prehab, activation, training at 10. Then after training, usually I do some gym work. You'll have some recovery stuff to do at the facility, and then from there I'll go to a different gym and do more recovery there for probably an hour or two, and then get home at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, do more recovery at home, throw on my Normatec boots, watch a game, watch film.
Make dinner for your wife.
Yeah,
Yeah.
make dinner and just spend time with my wife, because that quality time is obviously important, but yeah, and then it's in bed by around 8 o'clock, and I'm getting ready to do the next day.
Yeah, very demanding. So do you have any heroes or people that you look up to?
Specifically not necessarily in terms of in soccer, if that's what you're asking.
Could be in any walk of life. People that made a difference for you in some way, shape, or form that you're grateful you crossed paths with them.
Again, I could just attribute it to my family, that's been like my number one, especially coming back and realizing how much I missed it and needed it when I was away. I think that now that I've been home and been able to spend a lot of time with my family is, I can always say them, but in terms of an inspiration, I think that something that was always interesting, people would always ask me like who my favorite player was or who I wanted to aspire to play my game like, and for me, I never really had someone that I tried to emulate. I always just wanted to be the best version of myself. And that was what always had inspired me, because I don't know what it was, but for some reason, I had always had belief in myself as a kid. I always believed that I could do it, even when people told me that I couldn't, or, obstacles came about. I always believed that I could, and I had people who supported me and believed in me too, so that always mattered. But from that aspect, I just wanted to continue to evolve and grow into new, better versions of myself constantly.
Yeah. So besides Soldier Field, of course, do you have a favorite place that you like to play?
That's a tough question. There's so many good stadiums.
Or maybe places you don't like to play?
Houston. It's so hot and humid in Houston. It's so hard to play soccer there. Yeah, that's probably the worst. But one of the best probably is, Portland's great, Atlanta's great, Orlando was great. The stadiums are really evolving nowadays. You have new stadiums that are constantly being built all around the league. Cincinnati's actually probably one of my favorite places to play. I'll keep that answer, Cincinnati.
All right, so you're there in a stadium playing before thousands of people, and I'm sure the butterflies are churning, And so how do you calm yourself, or what tools do you use to focus and to put that away and concentrate on what you need to do?
I heard I'm just going to refer to a quote because this had always stuck out to me as a young player was, you don't rise to the occasion, you sink to the level of your training. So I feel like as long as I prepare myself on the greatest degree and I know that I'm ready for whatever's going to come, it kind of just helps me ease the nerves in that moment because, you're walking through the tunnel and you're going to step out there in front of thousands of people, and there's no more preparation that you can do in that moment to make sure that you're more prepared. You're going into that moment as prepared as you'll be in that moment. So all you can do is just let go and enjoy it and trust your instincts, because the more that you think in those moments when you're in the tunnel, and any good athlete, I'm not to say that I'm not sitting up here saying that I'm doing it all right, but they'll tell you that their best moments come when they're not thinking. So to just kind of tune it out, to trust that your training's been right, and then just to enjoy it, because the career goes fast. I'm already in my 7th season, and to believe that I've come this far, and I just want to continue to enjoy every game because they keep taking away and they go by faster than you know, and before I know it, my career will be over, so ultimately I just want to keep having fun.
Yeah, and all of us hope you keep having fun. So we know you're a coffee drinker, okay, and we know that you are in training, and I'm sure you have to watch what you eat. In fact, you talk about having a cheat meal once in a while in your book. So what's your favorite cheat meal?
Pizza. For sure.
Anywhere in particular?
Old Town's the best. Old Town. Right, it's right over there on Bodie. That's my favorite. That's my favorite. Oops.
And when you do have some free time, and you try to strike the balance that you talk about, and you talk about it, it's not easy. It's not easy for any of us. But when you have some free time, how do you strike balance in your life, Chris?
By spending it with the people who mean the most to me, where you kind of dial back and ask yourself the question of what really matters. At the end of the day, is it the number of goals you score? Is it, all these external accolades, or does it come down to, being able to go over and smoke some meat with my grandpa, or, have my family over and have coffee and be able to cook and watch soccer and do whatever we do. But that's the way that I find balance. Go golfing. I love to golf. So when the seasons are right, obviously here it's difficult. You can't golf all the time. But no, I mean, I think that the balance is obviously really important because it'll help you come back better in the other sense as well.
There's an annual golf outing here at church. We'll make sure that we enlist you this
Yes,
summer.
please do.
Yeah. And maybe you bring along some of your teammates too. That'd be great. All right, so this is going to really sound like an interview question, so just hang in there with me on this one. So if we could visit with those who know you best, what 3 words or phrases might they use to characterize you? Maybe we should have your mom answer that. Or Alyssa.
I would say disciplined, loyal, and funny.
There we go. I thought you were going to say
Maybe
funny.
not. Carrie, let's go Carrie. That sounds better.
Well, as only a proud mother could be, as you were saying those words, she was, affirming everything that you said.
Okay, there you go.
So, you know what? It doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah.
So, good for you. Good for you. So, just one more question, and then we're going to let people from the audience ask you some things, okay? So, what advice would you give for young people? And just a little bit different. I'm not saying for a career in sports to start. I'm going to say, what advice would you give for young people to make a positive difference in their community?
I would say to make sure that you're taking care of yourself and you believe in yourself first. And you're doing things to make sure that you're practicing self-love in that, because I feel like if you're not taking care of yourself first, you can't help those around you as effectively. You might be able to in some surface level, but I think that if you believe in yourself and you love yourself and you take care of yourself and do what's necessary for you to be, happy, healthy, at peace, whatever it is, I think that ultimately will help you reciprocate that energy back to everybody that's around you.
And it's really powerful, maybe more powerful than you know, when you talk about your faith and the role that plays for you, in your career and in your life with your family. And it's really refreshing to hear that. And I think important for young people to hear that too. It takes a lot more. It takes a lot more, and we're very grateful for everything that he provides for us. So to make a difference in their community, thank you for that. And then we'll wrap it up with this and say, okay, if you want to pursue a career in sports, what do you need to do?
The foundation is belief. Really, it is. The foundation is belief. If you don't believe that you have a chance and that you're worth the work that you're going to put into it, you'll never make it, because there's going to be tons of obstacles and tons of things that are going to persuade you to not, tons of reasons to stop, tons of reasons to quit and to give up. But ultimately, if you believe in yourself and you believe that you're worth the work and that the chance is there for you and that, that God has a plan for you, I think that ultimately you can do whatever you put your mind to.
Yeah. Thank you. What a treat it is to sit here and listen to you. Can you give Chris a nice round of applause? All right, So this is your chance now to ask the unsanitized questions, okay? And so, just raise your hand and we'll come around and you can speak into the mic, and Chris will be more than happy to try to answer. Everybody, you can hold on to that.
You ever think better than like Messi or Ronaldo or like Mbappe?
I say believe in yourself, but that's a stretch, mate. At this point, that's a far one. We'll see, man. We'll see. Who knows?
Right out of the box, comparing you to Messi.
Yeah, gotta love it.
Okay.
Who was your favorite coach that you had?
Favorite coach that I had actually ended up being the one that I hated at Wisconsin. I started out not liking him at all, but he came around because ultimately once I grew up, I started to see that he was really hard on me because he cared about me. And as a young player and as a young kid, anyone who's going to be hard on you usually has your best interests at their heart. So learning to take that constructive criticism helped me a lot, and that ended up being my favorite coach when I look back.
First of all, I just wanted to say thank you so much for being a role model to the children. I mean, we just love and aspire to watch you. I mean, I know you don't maybe look at yourself as that, maybe you do, but I mean, it's always really love to watch you. They have, well, first of all, you're like the epitome of dedication and perseverance of, what an athlete should be. And I have to say to your mom that the foundation of having faith starting early, I think, in religious, school, I feel like that gives you such a foundation of success. And I notice, in my experience, it seems like it creates great communication skills and probably so many other things that you didn't realize maybe that handed to you early on life. But both of my boys play for the Soccers, so they get to play on the same field you did. They also work with Coach Kyle, so a couple connections.
That's awesome.
So thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Is that the new jersey?
Yeah.
Oh, stand up. Stand up and show everybody. This is the new fire jersey. You guys are the new kit.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, go online. Go to the Chicago Fire website, and there's a lot of information there, particularly about this guy.
Chris, everybody looks at soccer and they like to see the guy score. They think there's only, maybe whether you're playing a 2-1, whatever. Everybody looks, what's your favorite position, or what was your favorite position? Even at Wisconsin when I watched you there, your junior and senior year. But what do you consider was maybe something other than the position you played that you maybe would have liked to have played?
Center forward. Because I'm too small, in the league, so to say. They also said I was too small to play in the MLS, so here I am. But no, I think center forward would be a lot of fun. I played in the 4-4-2 at Wisconsin, so I was one of the forwards, but the main target forward, he was a bigger guy, and I kind of played underneath, and I found a lot of success in that system. So that was probably my favorite position. But like you said, scoring goals is always, in my opinion, the most fun. That's why I play up high in the field. So. Yeah, that was probably my favorite position.
So, Carol, I hate to put you on the spot, but this is Chris's preschool teacher. So be nice. Tell us a really nice memory of Chris from preschool.
Well, every morning when we came to school, Christopher would cry for the first 10 minutes of class. He'd go and stand by the other teacher's chair, and then
Get him out of the car.
no, he had no problems until Mom left, and then he would cry. But you know what? Christopher was really smart, and what people don't know is his birthday is August 29th. So he was if he had been born 3 days later, he wouldn't have gone to school until the following year. So he was one of the youngest children in the class. And there was a debate, should we keep him back, whatever? But he was so smart. He worked so hard. And after the first 10 minutes of class, everybody loved him.
Until I stop crying.
Chris, football across the pond and really in the rest of the world is an experience that most in the U.S. can't relate to. Were there any experiences that might have surprised you because you played in both the European and in the U.S. leagues?
Yeah, just the amount of following that they have in Scotland especially is huge. So, I mean, I think we landed the first day and we were just walking in the city center just in Edinburgh to try and get a feel for what was around. And I think I got recognized like 7 or 8 times in like 20, 30 minutes just walking around. And I was like, oh man, this is going to be a different experience. So like when you would lose games over there, couldn't go out, you know, couldn't go to dinner and stuff because the fans would just heckle you, you know. It was very intense environments that you would play in over there. You know, the stadiums were full to the brim and the Scottish fans are just hounding you, you know. They're tough, they're intense. They tell you exactly how they think it is, you know, and but you gotta respect it somehow. In that sense, it was just a lot different, you know. Playing in Europe was obviously great and fun, good experience. But that was probably the main difference from here to there. At least just in Scotland, obviously I can only speak to that, but yeah, different level of following. It's like the Bears or something here, you know, like the fans are there every week, win or loss, you know. But yeah, it was good.
Chris, you seem very centered, and you've certainly learned life's lessons early. I'm very impressed with that. I think a lot of people see professional sports guys as, you know, players and partiers and all of that. How do you think your fellow teammates see you? And do you feel like you fit into that, into not the partying and everything, but do you feel like you fit in with them?
Yeah, I would say majority of the team, you know, guys, you have some that like to go out here and there, as you do on every team. You know, there's guys who find balance and, you know, blow off steam in different ways. But I try and be a role model to the younger guys in like a good aspect, in a good sense, where you know, I just try and be a role model. There's a lot of young guys in the locker room, especially at the Chicago Fire, and I just try and lead them in the best possible way where, you know, like I said, people do things differently at times. I would say majority of the guys, though, aren't, you know, like to go out, like to party and do crazy stuff like that. It's just, I don't think that for the majority of people it's sustainable in this career, but I think that they would all say the same thing about me. I'm pretty reserved. I'm not huge into going out and doing stuff like that just because I see it as a distraction. It's something I learned from a young age. So, yeah. Does that answer your question? Okay.
How old are you?
26.
Oh, that's young.
26.
As you're only 26 years old now, your career won't last forever. Do you see soccer as something that you're going to do after your professional career ends and play into the adult leagues that are in the area? Having played in the adult leagues most of my life, I've played against many ex-professional players at different levels. Do you see yourself continuing, or is soccer just something until you're done with the professional?
We'll see how worn out I am by the time I'm done. I would imagine that I'll always try and play, at least in some way, shape, or form, until I can't move anymore. But I've always enjoyed actually playing in Chicago, especially in the indoor arenas where you have the walls. I think that game is almost sometimes more fun than the outdoor game. So I feel like as long as I can play that and do that maybe on the weekends to stay in shape, as long as my family time isn't too evaded, you know, then I think that that's something I'll continue to do.
Having known you as long as I have, I'm very proud of you, and congratulations on all your success now and for all your future endeavors. Had you ever considered an alternative when you were like not doing well and you were unhappy with it? Had you ever considered an alternative, and what was it?
Yeah, I don't think honestly I did. even when I was struggling, I had always, for some reason, believed that it was going to work out. I had been studying economics. Don't know what I would have done with that, but it sounded great. So I started studying that at school, and yeah, for sure, of course, yeah. But yeah, no, I always had believed, even when it wasn't necessarily going well. Like I said, I don't really think the reality of when things weren't going well, especially dating back in my first 2 years in school, I don't think that I really had grasped that reality, like, okay, I might not be playing soccer forever. I better get my stuff together before time runs out, because I had learned that the time was ticking and I really had to sort it out. But I never really thought, like, okay, maybe this isn't for me. I said, okay, maybe I gotta go a little bit deeper into what I'm trying to accomplish. But always believed, yeah. Probably. Perseverance, resilience, don't stop. No alternative, yeah. Everyone would always tell me have a plan B, but I just always thought that the plan B distracts from the plan A, you know, so. Yeah, you know, if I had needed the plan B, I would have gone 100% into that after, you know, but ultimately if I wanted to be a professional soccer player and put into that profession as much as that was required in order to get to that level, I don't know if having a plan B and putting so much time into that would have necessarily helped me accomplish that.
He's coming back at you.
All right, let me hear it.
What was the hardest team that you versed?
Hardest team that I versed. In the MLS? Probably LA Galaxy when Zlatan Ibrahimovic was there. You know Zlatan? Yeah. He's impossible to stop. We couldn't stop him. He scored 4 goals. Yeah, we lost 4-3. Tragic. But yeah, probably them, just because he was different.
Any other questions? Last questions for Chris. Oh, I'm sorry.
Who's your favorite person you've played with?
I had a friend named Dom Dwyer. I don't know if you know him, but he was an MLS All-Star. I played with him in Orlando, and when I had gotten drafted there as a young player, he kind of took me under his wing and was just like a big brother to me, and has become one of my best friends to this day. So he was probably my favorite teammate, just because he ended up becoming one of my really good friends. I would say that if you can make good friends with your teammates, it'll always make your team better.
What if you have a bad coach? That you don't get along with, you touched us.
At the end of the day, you just have to try and dial your focus as much as you can onto things that you can control. Because ultimately, you know, at your guys' age, the coaches aren't going to last forever, right? As long as you continue to focus on yourself and you continue to improve, do extra work, get better as much as you can, the coaches will change, they'll rotate, and as you continue to get better, you know, you'll just continue to separate yourself more and get to the point where it's almost, you're undeniably good, you know, where the coach isn't going to have any say, you know, so just dial back your focus onto the things that you can control, you know, because you can't always control the coach, and it's easy to get caught up in some of those things sometimes, but it's really important just to try and narrow that down.
Sometimes you don't get along with your teacher, and then the next year you have a great teacher, and you have a very successful teacher.
Right, exactly.
Knowing professional athletes as we do, in their afterlife, a lot of them go into coaching. Is that on your radar at all? This would be specifically baseball, but we've known several guys that have gone into college coaching. I've got a great friend who's
head baseball coach at, I'm forgetting the name of the school. It's a SEC conference school. Is that on the radar?
I'll never say never because you just don't know. I feel like that's something that I've learned in my life too, is just never say never because you just don't know. Things might change at that point in my life. Right now, I'm not sure if I would go into coaching unless I would do more of individual stuff with young players on their own, where I'm trying to help develop just players in terms of their skills or their mindsets and stuff like that. But in terms of going in like coaching a team or back at my college, I'm not sure if that's something that is necessarily on my radar at this moment in time.
Like, what personal rating would you give yourself?
Like FIFA?
Yeah, like a FIFA, like 60 to like 95 or something.
I'd say I'm a fair 82.
An 82,
at least.
Rough crowd. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I'll just say it loud.
Please.
What's your favorite team to watch?
Favorite team to watch is probably Manchester City right now because they're so good. Or Arsenal, but the English League, the EPL, is the best to watch in my opinion. So any games that are on from there, I'll always watch those. Always. All of them, yeah. Doesn't matter.
Okay, thank you so much. And most of all, so in so many ways, you were and have been a pioneer in your young career in a variety of settings, and you have also helped us with this setting. So know that we're very proud as a congregation to have a setting like this where we can offer opportunities for the community to be invited in, and you will always be well thought of, and we will always think of our evening here with you. Very fondly, Chris, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
So we're very fortunate to have Pastor Aaron here as our pastor. And Pastor Aaron is going to offer a blessing for us all before we leave. And before you leave, remember there are books if you would like to purchase one in the back. There's water and lemonade or time to spend with Chris. Though we do respect it, you've got to get to bed. You've got a busy season, okay?
It's after you've had time. But you absolutely cannot come to a place like this without receiving a blessing. So, my friends, go out with good courage, secure in the knowledge that the one who has created you is providing a path for you and is there for you, and that you are well loved. Amen. Amen. Go in peace.